I know it's been a long day, it's been a brilliant day, and I know that energy levels are relatively low right now, but I'm hoping that we can gather our energies for one last time for a very quick plenary. So I'd just like to ask the plenary panel members to assemble. I think I'm looking for one more person, and I think that's Sam. Thank you, Sam. Sam's just getting mic'd up and is on his way, I hope. And we're going to keep this short and focused. And I just wanted to say really well done to the students who've been working in a second language all day. And I'm not surprised they're exhausted. So I think we can give them a pass for this item. Anyway, so Sam, thank you very much. And we've got Lucy and Habib over there who are going to be taking some notes for us, which is great. So this is just going to be a simple switch of mode, really, to go from question and answer into more reflective mode. So what are your key takeaways, or what's your one key takeaway? What has all this stuff today meant for you? Who might you be connecting with as a result of this? What might you take away in terms of a bit of a nugget of best practice that you've learned from somewhere? Or have you got maybe a bit more insight into the resilience that you need to tackle the barriers that you're facing in your system joining up? So I'm going to first of all ask Kate to start, and I'm just going to let Kate know that it's okay to drop the mic, because Kate has got to get home and look after things at home. So Kate's going to give us her takeaway and then head off. So Kate, over to you.
So 5 years ago, I set up something called the Home Buying and Selling Group. And last week, we published our first paper about how to change the home buying and selling process for the better. How to do it in the short term and how to do it in the long term. And that has taken us up to 5 years to do, because I have over 30 organisations that I have to get to agree the way forward. Lenders, legal companies, estate agents, surveyors, you name it. Some of them a little contrary. But we did it. And my takeaway from today is that this group is the same, not as far as we were 5 years ago, but you can do this. When you get a group of like-minded people in the room from lots and lots of different areas, private sector, social sector, you name it, what happens is we all start to learn from each other, and we all start to understand what the real problem is. But better still, we come up with amazing solutions that nobody else has managed to deliver before, that we all agree on and that we all work towards. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you to everybody, because I've loved today. But you can do this. We can solve the crisis, and that's down to you.
What a brilliant drop the mic moment. Thank you very much.
We've got
amazing.
To
So I'm going to ask now, in the interest of inclusion, I'm going to ask Richard for his next, and then we're going to flip back to Louise and then to Sam. And then we're going to ask you what your takeaways are. So that's just to give you a heads up and give you a little bit of thinking time. Richard.
Okay, well, I think I've got a mic.
Are you mic'd up?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Well, what are my takeaways? Well, I mean, several, actually. I was talking to Gary over there from Mode, who, had I had the question which he got first, I would have asked the same question to our friend Craig from Citra Living, backed by the might of Lloyds Bank, which is, why don't you do more in the way of a joint venture, which then leads on to the question Linda asked about when are we going to have a radical housing conference. Let me tell you a story about the Bauburgermeister of Tübingen. His name's Cord Sölker. The Bauburgermeister is the building mayor. He's the indirectly elected building mayor of the city of Tübingen in Germany. His electors are the city councillors, the aldermen, not the electorate at large. And then he has responsibility for all of the building and development and architecture functions within the city. And he gave evidence to the review that I mentioned earlier that I did. One of the many things that struck me was, he said, oh no, we don't have a problem with money. because the city has its own bank. Which is kind of handy and rather a difference from the way that we do things. And another thing he said was that as a local mayor, by the way, in Germany there's a constitutional right to build a house. As a local mayor, you're unlikely to have a permanent contrived scarcity of housing because you want to get re-elected. And they look at it so differently there that the way you get elected is you make sure there are enough houses. So one of my takeaways is to go off and talk to our friends at Citra Living and find out more about what we can do to do longer term solutions, because it sounds great, doesn't it, to and by the way, I may have inadvertently contributed to the general feeling that we don't like volume house builders in this room. I've trained myself very hard over many years to sound nice about them, not least because they have huge supplies of land and very large balance sheets. And I don't have anything against them at all. I just want customers to have choice so that, and not for their product, their small, expensive, not very green product, not to be subsidised by us as taxpayers while other people are struggling. So I think they should be on an even playing field. But it's perfectly obvious that with the power balance sheet size they have, I'm quite confident that in a more diverse, let us say even radical world, they're big and strong enough to adapt and to survive. And the day I see people walking past the show home of a major volume house builder's site to walk along to a different show home further along the road where they have the opportunity to buy, or if they can't afford to buy, to rent at a peppercorn and then choose to buy later a service plot of land like they can do in the Netherlands. The moment I see and then take advantage of a finance package that's available from the local city council, the moment I see them walking past the show home of one of the big volume house builders in order to do that, because the offer is equally easily available, is the moment I know that those volume house builders will be adapting their model more strongly to cope with the new realities. The chief new reality being that they'll have to take more notice of what their customers want, so that the buying power of people will count for something and will in itself shape and change the market in the way that it currently doesn't really do. So there's a lot to do, but it seems to me I think we're on the cusp of a very big change, because there's a lot of stuff like this happening across the country where energy and ideas are bubbling up, pushing against the boundaries of what is plainly a broken system, and that is at some point going to burst through. And it seems to me we need to be ready with a vehicle for that energy to be directed at a scale that's large enough to make a difference. And the best way to do that is to co-opt and to encourage and to collaborate those people who have access to land and money and power, and to get them on the journey with us, because that's going to make it much more likely to be successful.
Fantastic, Richard, thank you. I'm going to leave it there. You may have other takeaways, but I'm going to move on to, and you're mic'd up as well, aren't you? So that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to Louise.
Can you hear me? I'll try and be quicker than Richard. What do I take away? Two things, I think. I think choice, massive. I think when I first started on the retirement living research, it was around how do we make it more aspirational for people to actually move when there's a massive reluctance to actually move. And numerous discussions that I had with people was around the fact we always build the same thing. So if you don't build anything different, the customer doesn't have that choice and they don't know, therefore, what they're missing out on. So I think choice, and I agree with you also, the fact that we're on the cusp of something actually quite big potentially happening despite all the things that get in the way. The other thing from me is I think there is a much wider discussion around what affordability actually is. So we know the legal definition of affordable, we know what it is in terms of planning, but I think affordability is something that can be measured in many different ways from the way it currently is done from a planning perspective, even in terms of what social value a property could bring, and it might be a private rent property. I just think that whole area of affordability needs to be explored.
Maybe I should introduce myself first, really. So I'm Sam Turner. I'm a senior designer at Agile. So I'm an architect, and I like to say I'm an activist as well. I helped found the Architects Climate Action Network, and was quite active in there. I think that's sort of maybe a little bit absent from that at the moment as I've relocated down to Bristol to join Agile. But I joined Agile from setting up a consultancy myself to talk to designers, to engineers, to people in the built environment about the climate emergency, how much of an impact we were responsible for as a collective industry, and how much of a change we could make, and how much of a positive impact we could have. And I kind of gave that up to come and actually have that positive impact. And so I come to Agile with that sort of background of activism and network building to sort of get some momentum going around in the construction industry. And see that Agile are kind of doing it. It's lovely to see these images behind there. Some of them are, that I've worked on, and there's more sort of in the pipeline there that we're actually practicing this and starting to work on it. But that's one piece of a really complex puzzle. So my takeaway from today is that it's systemic change that we really need to do. And it's such a complex thing. And we each have our expertise, we each have our main interests that we're sort of pursuing, whether that be the design of the buildings, the enabling of them, the health of them, the accessibility of them, or the finance of them. There's all these parts of a rope that combine together to make this very complex puzzle that we need to unpick. And I don't think the system that we have now would be what any of us would design if we could. Even the people in charge of that system probably wouldn't design the system that we have now. And it's emergent from so many decisions or non-decisions that have brought us to this state of emergency and crisis. And that's going to be really hard to untangle. But seeing all the amazing work that people are doing in this room and beyond, I think we got it. We just need to bring it together, and it's that networking, that pulling together, and making sure that while I'm focused on making a lovely, accessible, carbon capturing home, someone else is there enabling the land to come forward. Someone else is there to enable the finance to come forward, and that we're all working together on that common aim of building the system that we actually want, and we all agree that we need. And I think it's a brilliant challenge to have, but it's a bit daunting, isn't it?
That's brilliant, Sam. Thank you very much. So I'd like to open up the opportunity for comment now to you. What are your key takeaways, and what do you want to share? There's no need to share, by the way, immediately. We will be following up with some questions to you. So if you're feeling a little bit tired or a little bit shy, you can think about it, take it away, and tell us in different ways. But it would be lovely to hear from some of you right here, right now.
Oh, is there one? Is there one up here? Sorry, I've got it from earlier. There we go.
Hi, I'm Maiwa Garner from Apply Structure. So this is my first time at the Radical Homes Conference. Didn't manage to come last year, but really glad I came this year. A lot of really interesting opinions and perspectives and solutions. And I suppose my key takeaway is that we need to enter an era of experimentation. There are so many different avenues in how we can tackle this problem and fix this, what is very clearly a broken system. But there's no right solution. And there are many different aspects of this industry that we need to look at. So it could be service plots. We may need to look at retirement options. Modular is a key factor in terms of how to build things quickly. And in different areas, we'll need different solutions. And I think that, I suppose the main issue we need is how do we facilitate this era of experimentation? Because we won't know what's going to work long term unless we try something. And we need to allow people and facilitate people to try new things to see what happens. But yeah, it's been really enlightening to see the different ideas that people have.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So the takeaway that I'm getting from you is era of experimentation,
Yes.
and tailored to context.
Yes.
Because there is no one solution fits all. That's brilliant, thank you. I'm going to invite a few more contributions before we close then with maybe perspectives again from the panel. Who's next? Looks like it's Guy.
Thanks very much. That was an amazing day, very kind of information dense and exciting. From a personal perspective, I spoke last year about access and inclusion and felt like a lone voice. And today has been thrilling for me because every single speaker has talked about access and inclusion within their talks. So already in a year, we've seen some radical change. I guess my key takeaway would be, you know, if we could have that in pragmatic terms on the ground next year, more accessible homes supplied, then we'll build resilient communities. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you. Well, I didn't expect to say this, but I'm going to go back and talk to my local vicar and see whether he wants to join my community land trust and help me with my journey on solving the housing crisis, including possibly unlocking some church land we've got in the parish. So I didn't expect to say that. That was a surprise. I also going to try to find a way of linking up with Astor Housing to see whether they can unlock a blockage I've got with a current project that I'm trying desperately to get as far as planning. And I'm going to try and link our community farm with ecological land cooperative to see if there's any synergy between them and they can sort of communicate and help each other.
I'm just going to say, Sue, what an amazing shopping list. That's fabulous. Nick.
I think today's reinforced to me this idea that we love as human beings to have scapegoats, don't we? We love to have this one person or one organisation that we can blame for a problem. And if anybody knows the work of Hans Kruger in terms of that element, it's a real human nature thing. And it's very easy for us to blame the local authorities, blame the developers. It's all their fault. They're all evil. And actually, one of the things that's reinforced for me today is how there are good people at work in each of those sectors that are doing their best, and when we work together, then we genuinely have the ability to shape the narrative in the coming decades. We have to stick at it, and we have to keep going, but we have the possibility to turn this around. And you know, like people have said, the power's in the room, isn't there? Which is really encouraging.
I'm going to go before you, Rachel, sorry. I'm going to then hand it straight to you. I just wanted to pick up what Becky Winter was saying, because... yeah, I can. For the church to be thinking and acting on setting up a foundation that provides funding, setting up an association that provides the means by which properties can be managed, and setting up a development agency to enable and to provide expertise into all of that is amazing. And if an institution, if I can call it that, like the church can change. So I'm really excited about that change and how that manifests change in other organisations.
Yeah, it's been very heartwarming for me. This morning I was feeling a bit wobbly and I wasn't feeling too good in myself, and today has been an absolute tonic for me, it really has, and I don't feel so alone with my work anymore. And I think that's quite a big thing, because I can get really stuck in my head with all of this sometimes, and I forget to connect and reach out. And I think what's coming up for me now is that there's a lot of solidarity in the room, and there's like a growing community of very passionate, amazing people, and that really makes me feel great. So thank you. It's been such a tonic, and yeah, linked up with loads of people, loads more ideas for potential, and great. Thank you.
I should do the gallant thing. Okay, all right, fair enough. No. Hello, John McCarthy, architectural designer. I'd just like to echo what the lady was just saying there and what Sam was saying. And today has been a revival of my faith, I think, in all that we're all aiming to design and come together and achieve, because it's particularly complicated. I was describing to people today that in my part of the world, which is just a pool area, I felt a bit of a vacuum of interest, particularly in the use of natural fibre materials and the sort of this weird idea that they are sort of seen as perhaps 2x per square metre at the point of purchase, but offer 3x rather, performance long term. So you still get return on investment within 5 years, but then you get better performance afterwards. Anyway, so that's the thing. Just to say that's reinvigorated my faith. Thank you.
For me today, I just actually realized how aware I already am of a lot of solutions, and how I'm even more aware and rich, full of ideas and initiatives that are already happening, which is amazing. And sometimes when you were speaking just now, I could really kind of relate to that, because I feel I'm sitting behind my desk every day, and you just feel a little bit removed from what's happening on the ground. And actually today, coming together, speaking about all the great things that we are doing, and maybe some getting challenged on how much further we should be stretching ourselves in our thinking, is just love these kind of days, and they're so needed. And we talk about convening and cross-collaboration all the time, but finally we're starting to see, the first seeds of actually sprouting initiatives that are coming about, and I'm just so excited to see what is going to happen. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, I'm Jeff Haslam. I was a little bit involved in last year's Radical Housing Conference, and I have to say there's a tangible positive move forward, I feel, that's coming out today. And I was particularly moved by to sort of reiterate what Pat said and add to that about this amazing initiative around the church's involvement and the broad sector of faith groups, which is such a big part of our community. And the fantastic 5 S's that they are working to, which it seemed to me is valuable for us all to take as watchwords: sustainable, safe, stable, sociable, and satisfying. It just that it seems to me resonates with everything everyone has been striving towards in what they've been presenting today. So thank you.
Brilliant, and typically understated, Jeff. The role you played in last year's conference was not this big, but this big. So thank you very much. I feel as if everybody in the room that wants to say something has said what they want to say. So this is last chance saloon for any more comments in the room. As I say, if you'd like to make a comment later via another means, just let us know. I just wanted to turn to the panel now for any closing thoughts to send us on our way. And I'd like to start actually with Richard, and then move to Louise and end with Sam, if that's okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Linda. I too was amazed by what we heard from our friends in the church charities, Nick Harris and Becky Winter. And I took evidence from the Bishop Housing when I did my review, and I had no idea how much church land there is. They mentioned 200,000 acres. That's under the control of the the diocese or under the various benefices under them. There's a further 90,000 acres under the control of the church commissioners. So one suggested possible action is you should all go and see your vicars, and then they'll send you off to the diocesan secretary, and then you'll find that some diocesan secretaries are doubtless keen to listen and keen to engage, and others who are perhaps not so, and then you can have a good conversation with them about why perhaps they should do more. The same is true of county councils. I know Norfolk County Council owns 16,000 acres of what are called county farms. They could be doing a lot more of what we heard of from Ollie before. As well as the other takeaways I mentioned earlier about Citra Living and going off and talking more to the financiers who are, after all, looking for low risk and long term. So they ought to be our allies. I very much like what our colleague on this table here said about experimentation. We're not going to solve this with one answer. I can, because I've been doing it for quite a few years, I could be talking to any Minister of the Crown, whether it's the Attorney General or the Transport Minister, and I could explain why service plots connect directly to his or her area of responsibility. There's no social or political problem I couldn't help solve, or at least talk about solving, with service plots of land. But even I recognise that it's actually only part of the solution. What we need is lots and lots and lots of solutions, and then you run them in parallel, and then you look at them and you see what works. And if it works, you put more fuel on that particular fire over there. The only way you're going to really find that out is by doing it. And so, to your words, we have to facilitate, we have to find ways of facilitating it easily. There's a thing called a local development order. Brian E. Harrington, who was here from Graven Hill, the largest custom self-build site in the UK at the moment, outside Bicester, was done with a local development order. They've been on the statute book for years, but they're not used that much. What it does is create certainty across a much larger area by basically signing on the dotted line. There will be outline planning permission, so you remove a whole layer of risk and potentially interest a lot of other people. I think we need to come up with more models like that for more things where local development orders or clusters of local development orders across different districts are used as a kind of proxy for an experiment, so that we can try lots of different things, knowing that we have the green light to try, and that's what's going to make the difference. So thank you all for coming. I think we should do this more often, because I think it's the bottling of all this energy is what's going to make the difference, and eventually help us to persuade those we have to talk to that actually we're in the majority and that we better represent the folk out there who want something done than they do.
Well, I was going to say, I've never been to an AA meeting, but it feels a little bit like that. And I've really enjoyed it, so perhaps I might go. I mean, just my observation, I mean, you know, I talked earlier about rants that I have. I mean, you know, you read the press, the media, everything is so negative about, you know, delivering more, you know, everything's broken. And I accept that there are big issues with planning, and there are big issues in delivering what we want to deliver. But it's great being in a group of people like this where actually the negative is set aside. I've been to loads of conferences where all they do, you know, in real estate terms, is put the barriers back up and tell us what the problems are. Well, we all know that. So from my perspective, I think it's just the takeaway of knowing that if you get the right people in the room talking about solutions rather than the challenges, actually you can have a really positive day, and it just pushes you back on, because, you know, I think we all hit that wall sometimes and think, oh, it's never going to change, but we can't think that way. We've got to keep going. So yeah, from my perspective, it's been a great day. And I don't drink alcohol, but that's a lie.
I was going to say you have to give up alcohol to go to an AA meeting. I can't say I've had a terrible day now, can I? I've been booed out of the room. No, I'm a contrarian, so there are things that I've disagreed with today, but I think there's ways of working in those disagreements and those differences of ways of doing things, and I think there are ways that we can work through those and we can get forwards. I think we have lots of solutions already, and I think while there is some room for experimentation, I think we also need to present the solutions that we know work now, because we don't have time to mess around with like trying all sorts of different experiments for another 10 years. We're in a crisis. We need to get moving now. So let's present to our politicians the ways that we know that it works, the answers that we know are better. And we'll talk to you about concrete and your foundations, but we have other ways of doing it. But if some concrete and foundations needs to get your service plots going, fine, let's get it going. I think there are plenty of solutions right now that we can start working on and go with. And I don't think we necessarily need to be doing... I think there is a lot more experimentation to do, but I don't think that's the focus now. I think the focus now should be on just getting stuff done. And I wish I had the networking abilities that you seem to have, and this sort of power networking of finding all the people and the challenges to meet and facing those barriers that are in front of us. Because I think we've identified a lot of those barriers today, and we know the solution the other side of it, but that doesn't stop the barrier being there. So we need to go away with the energy today to smash through that barrier, to show people why it's wrong and how to build something better. And whether that's talking to your vicar or nudging a local MP or a councillor or whatever, I think there's lots that we can all do, and we just need to get doing it now, right? So... yeah, I thought I was going to be negative at the beginning of that, but hopefully that's come around to a call to action rather than to recognise that there is still challenges, and that while we're a big room who all agree with each other here, I'm not sure we're in the majority yet. While we might have opinions that we convince the majority of, I think a lot of people are just, they just don't know or they don't care right now, and it's our challenge to tell people about the things that we know and to show them why that affects them too, and they need to get as energized as we are about it.
I think that's a great note to end on, Sam. So what I'm going to suggest is that I just make a few closing remarks to say thank yous to people, and that I send us on our way, unless there are any closing contributions that people want to make. No. So I would just like to say a huge thank you to everybody that's contributed today. It's definitely been a co-created event with lots of different players and partners. Quite a lot of us are going to be coming back here tomorrow to talk about homelessness, care and inclusion, and resilience. And I think a lot of what we've touched on today actually all comes back to that theme of resilience. What I was hearing in the room, everything from I'm going to go and speak to my vicar to today has helped me reconnect and rest and re-energize, to, well, I think I've learned even more about the systems I thought I understood. And all of this has been created by us being together in this room. So I'm going to bring it right back to what Paul said at the beginning about what kind of housing radical are you? And I'm certainly feeling like right here, right now, which may sound like a strange thing to say after a long day, and I didn't get to bed last night until about 2 because of the preparations, and I was up at 5. But right here, right now, the kind of the kind of housing radical I am is an energized one. And so I very much hope that you are too. Look forward to seeing some of you again tomorrow, and we will be summarizing the proceedings and sending you out lots of stuff, and also signposting to some tools and materials to keep the conversation going, the energy high, and the focus on action. Thank you very much.